I'm Nikki, and this is my podcast, Come to Mind. Today, I've got a really exciting guest that I am been waiting a while to have a chat to. Her name is Mehreen, and she's a humanitarian activist, and I'm really excited to pick her brain today. Hi, Mehreen. Nice to meet you.
Hello, Nikki. Thank you. It's lovely to be here. It's good to finally meet you too.
So I would like you to do a bit of a backstory about who you are and what you do, and we can open some people's eyes and get the conversation going.
Sure. I think in terms of me, the first thing I always tell everybody is I'm a daughter, and then I'm a wife, and then I'm a mother. And those three titles, so to speak, are what makes me do the other stuff that I do. So over and above that, I think the current main focus of mine is trying to pull through and make the best of the United Nations Award, which I received last year in October. And that was the United Nations Goodwill Ambassador in Humanitarianism Award, which I got in October. I'm also the diplomatic official to South Africa for Global Intelligence Alliance, and I'm the country coordinator for Alliance for Humanity. I have my own company, which is called the MIA Company. It has its own website, which I'll reveal to you guys at some point. And through there, I motivate, empower, and advance. That's what the MIA is, the MEA. So motivate, empower, and advance. And that's for children and women more than anything else. That's always been my focus. And then I'm also a co-founding director of Helping Hands Social Society, which is where a lot of the humanitarian work gets done through. A lot of work had to get done from last year to now. So over and above that, I belong to lots of global platforms as well as national here in South Africa. I do a lot of work in terms of community-based skills development and pulling up communities. So there's a lot more to me. Attached to all of this is my academia. I've studied law, financial forensics, and psychology. So I'm just one of those people who don't stop. I just feel like the more I have to my power in terms of knowledge, the more I have to give off. And that's kind of where I am at the moment.
That's incredible. That's, you've got a list of accomplishments and, your education level. It could be intimidating to people, but at the same time, the work that you do feels like it's so hands-on and on ground level. What was the motivation? What got you started?
I think, what the thing for me is and I tell this to everybody. Lots of people say, well, Mehreen, why do you have so many different degrees and whatever? And I never, ever put up, even if you look at a business card on my website, you don't find the degrees and those credentials up there, because that's not what makes me me. As much as I get the education, there can be 20 certificates there with my name on it. For me, Nikki, they mean nothing unless I add value to them. And the value to each of those certificates is what I give off from the knowledge I gained. And that's where the humanitarian aspect comes in. So it's not so much that the certificate has to bring me monetary wealth. The wealth that it gives me is what I get from my heart and making a difference in somebody else's life. That's what's important. But my journey for this kind of work started at the age of 14, and I would never have known it back then, but that's when it started. And that was me tailing behind Granddad and doing everything Granddad was doing. And then, of course, I was reeled into a family friends event in Cape Town when I was 15. And she was a lecturer, and I said to her, why am I here? And she said, because you're going to talk. And I thought she was joking. But she said to me, now talk to these ladies, tell them about you and tell them what you want to see them do better as moms. And so randomly, and I took the mic and I did it. And at some point after you grow up, and then we all do this, I think. Lots of us go through the stage of, what am I going to do with my career? And culturally, I know for us, it's a lot of what would mom and dad be happy with. So you go into these different career paths to try and find what works. So the law worked kinda because it made everybody else happy. It didn't really make me feel fulfilled, etc., etc. But then I had life throw me curveballs, which it does to everybody. And one of those left me paralyzed, where they said I wouldn't walk again. And I wouldn't be able to have kids and, stuff like that. And when you're lying there on that bed, like in your 4th week, and they tell you there's just no hope, you lie there. And I was like 22 years old at the time. And I'm thinking, wait, I'm not going to lie here like this. So surely there must be more. I did a lot of work. I'm studying. I got so much dreams that I want to do. And why is this happening? In the meantime, there was also a stage in my life where I was very rebellious. I used to do my own thing. You know, as an only child, sometimes you get tired of pleasing the world, pleasing mom, dad, the whole toot, and you just want to do your own stuff. And sometimes you really need to fall to understand the logic behind elders' guidance. So I fell, but I had to pick myself up. So that was when I felt like, you know what, I can't do stuff just for others. I got to do it for me from here. And that's when I'm going to really feel the difference. And when I made that intention is when I actually started to heal my body. So that's when I found there's definitely a link between the mind, body, soul, and I delved more into that. That's when I decided to do the psychology part, and the NLP came after that, and the CBT came after that. So it was that sparked that interest, that sparked that journey of more about you as a person. What happens to you? What happens with your mind? What happens to your nervous system, with your mind, your emotions? So I kind of reeled away from the law and will now put everything into one basket, but so to speak, where I can pick off what I need when I need it. So I'm grateful to the creator that I have as much as I have in terms of academia, but it's there for me to use wisely to make that difference to others. So I'm grateful to him because I'm walking today. I am a mother today. So I defy the medical things there, but I'm not saying everybody can defy it, but I'm saying a lot happens with your mind. A lot happens with your mind and your mental capacity. And sometimes we just don't like to realize that we're wrong in certain behaviors and we've put certain things on us. And we need to change certain things about us to make the difference. We prefer, and it's comfortable to say it's your fault. It's so-and-so's fault and they did this and yes, they all do those things. But yeah, that's when my journey started. And I'm really glad to have gone through all those negatives in my life, because that's what made me who I am today.
I mean, you could easily have sat back and just been a victim and gone with it.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
can understand
Be one
now
of
the
those.
link, of that empowerment,
Yeah.
bringing that into the work that you do, because you've lived it, you did it.
Yeah. And the thing for me is what I give off in my lectures or whatever it is that I do with the empowerment segments, especially, is I don't give off what I learned in theory in those psychological textbooks. I'm not saying they're not good. They are good. We need them, but they're not humanely based for daily given advice. I give off based on my experience. So when I talk to people, I talk based on what I know works. And you would know this, Nikki, when we talk to large crowds, when we talk to people, there's a humane nature to people that will rather take in a story, a gossip story. Like if I'm sitting with a group of people and they're just giving do's and don'ts on certain projects, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm not going to really grasp the concept. But if somebody's sitting there telling you their story, somehow something about that story is going to stick with you. So I honestly believe that each one of my dark tunnels that I had to go through to find a light. But that light's not just for me. That light is for other people too. So what I give off is my experience, what I know works. It's not just some theory from a textbook that I'm trying to relate to you that you need to go to do for yourself, which is why I don't mind it if people come back to question, because I can give you the answer because I went through it. And that's really where I think the excelling works, is that humaneness that I can relay with you. I can actually empathize with you because I've been there, as opposed to going to someone who you can sit with and they'll say, I understand how you're feeling. And you have the response, oh, no, you don't. What would you know? You're sitting there and you're judging me. I'm not judging you. I've been there. And then you can tell them a bit of your story. And then it's like, oh, okay, now I can relay with you. So yeah, it does.
So we're going through a time now that is obviously unprecedented, and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
world. I think the real pandemic is going to be the impact on mental health. I'm not sure if you agree with me.
Absolutely.
Certainly
Absolutely.
seeing it already amongst children in my children's grades. They are starting to really show it, and that's where I'm seeing it most of all. And
Yeah.
obviously they are our future, and if they are being impacted on a mental health level, it's quite scary about what's actually going to unfold. And I was just wondering, how's that impacting the work that you do right now, and what is your take around that?
I think it's impacting hugely. I can tell you one thing for me personally is I believe as much as we have this pandemic of the virus, Nikki, I think we have 3 other pandemics we're dealing with. We're dealing with a pandemic of hunger, we're dealing with a pandemic of poverty, and we're dealing with a pandemic of mental health issues. And each one of those is getting worse and worse as the days progress. So we might be finding solutions somewhat for the virus and how to cope with the actual medical issues with the virus. But these other three pandemics are not getting resolved at all. People aren't even touching them. I don't know whether it's because of fear of what the reality is if we have to face them. But those are my three other pandemics that I have going on at the moment. And I have seen this firsthand. I've been busy with many programs. I head up 3 different COVID groups that are national based, 2 are international based. And so since the lockdown of last year, March, I've been out there. I used to go into the locations to do the feeding, to give out hampers, to try and be with people. And I always relay an example, and I'll relay it to you quickly, of one day. And that will give you a kind of synopsis of what a day is like on the frontliner, like a volunteer that would go out to do a feeding. So I was going to the one location to do a feeding. And these are hot meal feedings now, not the hamper drives. So we go to the location, and the idea for me is to make sure each of the homes in that area have a hot meal for that day. So we have a consortium of people, and each one of us select days. So of the 7 days a week, those people would have a meal. Excuse me. So I go through it, and then the van is there, and I'm offloading stuff, and I'm ready to have to distribute. But obviously we know the rules now. You can't get your food until you have mask on and you're social distancing in the queue and stuff like that. So they relay to the crowd of people, and it is a massive crowd. You have to follow these rules. And there's a little girl, and now you're not really looking at people when you're serving, sadly, because you got so much to have to get through. So you're pulling into the containers, and you're passing it along. And then I took the rein, and I was at the one pot, and I'm dishing it up. And then I'm realizing that the hand that I'm collecting from is far lower than me. So it's a child. And I look at her, and she's not wearing a mask. So I say to her, sweetie, you need to put your mask on. And she says to me, I don't have one. So I'm like, okay, now I can't stop her from giving her the food because she's there. So I go to the van quickly, and I grab a whole lot of masks, and it hit me because then I'm looking up beyond her, and I'm looking at this crowd of people, and 3/4 of them don't have masks on. And there's no more social distancing. Everyone is just communicating with each other, chatting to each other. And I'm thinking, oh my word, what's going on? So I leave the volunteers to carry on, and I tend to this little girl. And habit with me is with kids, I tend to like to bend down and talk to them eye to eye. So I bent down to her, of course, keeping the distance still. And I said, you need to put this on now. So I give her the mask. And she says, but I don't know how to put it on. So then you go into the exercise of trying to teach them what this is. Now, as I'm teaching her to put the mask on, you notice everyone's starting to peek and get interested in what are you doing? And then I realized this is not going to be a feeding scheme day. This is going to be an awareness campaign day. So then you break these people up, and then you stand there and you start talking to them about what this is. And they don't even know what social distancing is. Half of them have never seen what a mask is. And then I find the little boy sitting there and is so upset. And you go to, somebody says to me, there's somebody here, and he's just really not well or something. So you keep your distance still, and you go and you ask what's wrong with this little boy. And he's like, I don't know, but I saw your van, and I thought this is God's will, because we had no food for 2 days. I couldn't come up to get from the other vans, and today I came because my mother was sick. And I just, so one day is all of these things. And I'm thinking to myself, is this what's happening everywhere in the world at the moment? And the following day, I had a conference call with the European Union and stuff regarding what was happening in South Africa. And I posed it to them. And I said to them, it's well and good for us to have people come up and say, you guys have got to wear the masks every day, and you have to be social distancing, and you have to wash with soap and water. But did anybody stop to ask, how are these people going to get masks in certain areas? How are these messages going to get to them who don't even have the TV to get the message from you? How are they going to understand these messages you're sending? If somebody's going to tell them social distancing, they don't even understand what that means. So we never really gave it the effort to make sure people understood the concept. And when we broke into level 3, I think people just misunderstood that concept totally last year. And everyone just felt this virus had disappeared suddenly. So when it hit us in December, and the second wave has really, really, really come back with I'm going to get you attitude, it just took us all by storm. And the rife thing now is everybody's aware. So that awareness campaign is not the problem anymore. Now it's the anger campaign. It's the mental health issues. It's the emotional. You know, you go out there and every single person you're talking to has got an emotion that is negative.
Sure.
There's not a person that I'm going to and seeing that has got something positive to say about this. They know someone that has passed on. They're angry about something. They're frustrated about another thing. The kids don't even want to play because when they play, they're playing, even their playtime is with negative kind of games. It's games about attacking, it's games about fighting. It's not anything that's positive around us at all. And that scares me, because how do we then go back to these people and reinstate that there's a little bit of hope, there's a little bit of faith, and there's a little bit of okay? Because words for them are not going to mean anything anymore. I personally lost three very close people in the past 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago was my cousin brother, who was very young. Last week was his dad, and 2 days ago was his mom, my aunt. And that's as close as it can get. It's hitting everyone's home. And for me, it's all about, well, what do we do mind-wise? How do you cope? In the weekend, I had a friend of mine who lost both her parents to COVID, one day after the other. So the funeral of both parents was in one day, one morning. So when I chatted to her the night before just to offer condolences, she asked me a question, Nikki, that in our profession, I think when you're left without words, it's scary because it's your job to talk and to have the right words. And it left me without a word. Because she said to me, Mehreen, which casket do I go to first? Because this is a drive-by, they're going to stop there for 15 minutes. And then she says to me, I have 15 minutes. How do I know I give mom and dad 7.5 each? And that's the reality people are facing. There's no closure to these deaths. There's no understanding of why and how, because it's just taking it over. And then there's the anger. There's the anger. Some people are even angry at their faith. They're angry at the universe. They're angry at the creator. They're angry at themselves. There's so many questions that they're asking and no one's giving answers because everyone's in their own little bubbles. So that's the mental health issue at the moment. There's so much. The kids don't know what's happening.
No. How do you take care of your mental health? Because just listening to this story, like I feel it in my heart, and I can't imagine, like, obviously I work in the mental health industry, but when I'm working with my clients, I can detach, but on the front lines like that, as you described, that for me is the next level. How do you cope? What do you do? Maybe that can like just give some wisdom and insight to to the people out there. If we are struggling to cope, the tools that we use can possibly help them too.
Of course. I think my number one, and lots of people shut me down for this, my number one thing is gratitude, Nikki. Gratitude for me is like the ultimate. And before COVID-19, I used to always tell people, try and do a gratitude thing daily. 3 points a day for what you're grateful for. Even in your face of adversity, be grateful for something, because in that gratitude, you will find strength somehow to find positivity in your mind. So post COVID-19, we're probably going to need the same, but we're currently in it. And many people just don't see what can they be grateful for now. And I say to them, you're standing and talking to me. You're on a telephone call to me. You're on a video call to me, and you don't have an oxygen tank next to you. That's something to be grateful for. You have the technology to still be able to reach out to somebody to give you some guidance in some form. That's something to be grateful for. The fact that you woke up today and that you're okay still, and you're able to do the steaming that everyone's asked you to do, that you're able to do things for yourself, that's a lot to be grateful for. When we start to look around us and see, yes, we're faced with all of this around us, but I'm still okay. I'm here. And one of the philosophies I like to use is that if we have to picture this virus, we know the little pictures, coronavirus, corona this and corona that. But if you have to picture this virus, and if you picture this virus, for example, as an octopus, it's got its tentacles all over the place. We all know that it's there. You can't see it though. So you don't know where that tentacle is. Do you want to go anywhere where you know it might just touch you? Not really. So if that's the view that you have, and that is the octopus that's there, that octopus is not you. You can still take control of a certain number of things. Absolutely. So my philosophy is deal with what you can control. The virus is there. I can't control this virus, but I can control me. I can control me. I can control my thoughts. I can control my reaction to the virus. I can control how I act right now, but I can't control the virus itself. And if that becomes our philosophy and we take cognizance of it and we know, listen, I can do this and I can do that. I can't do that because it might be risky. You know the cons and cans. You know what I can do. Do the I can. Focus on the I can. I can be grateful. Yes, I have lost. And you know what? Even in losing my aunt, for example, my aunt was somebody who is a woman's activist for very, very long, most of her life, really. She dealt a lot in women issues with DV and GBV, etc. And in losing her, of course, there's the pain, there's a heartache. I lost somebody who was very, very close to me. But in all of that, there's also somebody who gave me memoirs. In all of that, there's somebody who gave me something that I can be grateful for. I'm grateful still that I had her. And I'm sure at some point there's some gratitude in her that she had me. So we were a gift unto each other at some point from above. So be grateful that you had the person that you've lost. And in that gratitude, you appreciate them, and it doesn't take away the pain, but it eases it a little bit to understand that that loss is not something you could control. It's
Sure.
beyond your control, but what's left within your control is how you cope with it now. So change your mechanism, change your thought process. Instead of saying, I lost, what have you gained? You gained the memoirs of somebody who was a gift unto you. So it's all about the mental concepts and how we're actually taking it in, I think, really.
So if I'm understanding correctly, like when you go out into the front lines, it's also about being grateful for the life that you have, and also, I suppose, being grateful that you get to be out there and to be doing something. And also, you know, I suppose even grateful to have those feelings of sadness, you know, that I can feel and that I can experience life on every level. And that when you go home to your family, to maybe love your family that little bit more that day.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And to prepare a meal with a little bit more love just that day, you know. I really like that.
Yeah, it has the catalyst effect. And that's what we're all about. We want to make that difference to one. I always say, if we can change one, we change a little family unit. When you change a family unit, then you're able to change a little community. You change that community, then you're changing a society. You change a society, you can change a nation, but it starts with that one.
Absolutely.
And a lot of it starts with a female in a home. So we really need to change how we view things. The reality is always there, but if it's outside of you, what could you control? You really couldn't control much outside of you. You can control you though. So one of the biggest things for me is to be grateful. I'm grateful for a lot at the moment. I'm grateful for so much that I'd say, even in the face of adversity, I say thank you, because there is someone in the universe going through a lot worse than me. So when we start to view that concept as becoming part of who we are, then that gratitude becomes a form of patience. And that's what we need a lot of right now. That patience and tolerance is what we need. And that's going to be able to get us to be able to be more united in our fight against this virus. Absolutely. Because we need to be patient with each other.
What message do you give to women? Because especially, I mean, I suppose it's all over the world, but certainly in our communities here in South Africa, where women feel disempowered a lot of the time, like what advice, what guidance do you give to these women that say, like, actually you are the heart, you're the pinnacle, that your whole family revolves around you? How do you get a woman to know and to see that?
I think the number one for women is this word empowerment, Nikki. This word empowerment, we know of it now. It's been around for like a couple of years now, and it's all over the place. But if we have to sit and think about it, empowerment has been with us all our lives. If you think of your mom, your grandmom, your great-grandmom, these are women that would wake up every morning, they would get up, they do what they have to do for everybody in that household, and everyone would get taken care of properly. The days would go by, whether they would work or not. If they had to work, they would work. They'd come back. Still, families are seen to. Meals are ready on time for the night. Kids are put to bed. Kids' homeworks are done. It's been for generation upon generation. That is empowerment on its own. It's been there. We have had it in us throughout our lives. Empowerment is not power over another. Empowerment is you having power over yourself. And yourself is self-growth. Yourself is self-development. When you look to grow yourself, if you are looking to grow yourself for you first and for the betterment of you and to find the best version of you because you want to be the best of you, then you will be empowered. But when you want to try and become a better version of someone else, that's not empowerment.
Sure.
That's competition. And that's where I think a lot of women go wrong. I get shot down for that too, because women don't like to hear that.
No.
And we have a lot of women in society that would compete with others for empowerment. But they don't, that is not empowerment. That's you competing. When you do it for you as a self, remember, if you're in a household and you have your kids and your husband, or even if you're not married, just you with your parents or whomever you're with, or even if you're alone, if you're doing it for you, the change is with you and it becomes you. When that change becomes who you are, everyone around you notices it. And that's for your better. If it's for the better for you, it's going to be the better for them because they're going to notice that betterment. It has a catalyst effect. They're going to start asking you how, why, what did you do? The next person's going to want to try and do the same. So if you're a woman in a home and that's what you're doing, your husband's going to know that. Your kids are going to see it. They're going to feel it. They're going to be feeling and wanting the same, better feeling. So what more catalyst effect do you need to create that home that becomes more wholesome?
Absolutely.
Culturally, for us, I know lots of women have issues where they say, well, my husband doesn't want me to be empowered. And I always say, well, why? What is his fear of you being empowered? It's also the concept. Many people, many men also felt that or feel that if you're empowered, then you're going to become less family orientated. You're not going to be the wife anymore. You're going to become this powerful woman who's going to just exit the home. It's not like that. Just make sure that when you're growing yourself, because that's what empowerment is, your self-growth. When you're growing yourself in the best version of yourself. If you are a daughter, you're finding the best version of how to be a daughter. But you're a daughter unto someone. The daughter is still you as a person. When you are a mother, when you are a wife, identify your roles, grow in the role that you're in. And when you're growing in the role that you're in, and the person that you're giving off the role to is going to see that growth in you. So they don't need to feel isolated from your growth. They want to grow with you. And that's where you don't have to break up family units because you're being empowered. You can grow them. And you'll actually gain more circles of people that will want to join in and say, well, I want to grow too. And that's where empowerment sits for women.
That's amazing. I know we're running out of time, so I just want to finish on this question. Can women get involved? Can they do some of the volunteer work that you're doing? Are there ways for them to like add value, to give back, and to not kind of be focused on what they can't do, but rather on what they can? Are they able to reach out to you and get information and guidance about this?
Absolutely, absolutely. If you go onto my website, it's www.themea company, the MEA company, one word, .co.za. You'll find my story there, and there's also a link there that gets you to be able to contact me via email, which is Mehreen at themeacompany.co.za. And once I get your email, then I'll be able to chat to you further. There are lots of different groups that we have going around at the moment. I have a group of women who, from their homes, just housewives, and I don't say just housewives with a negative effect. I'm saying just housewives because they wanted to be known. We're just housewives. So we said, that's fine. Just housewives are what's putting together soup kitchens now. So they're making these different soups and they're getting together in different communities. And this is soup that's going out to COVID homes. So homes that have positive patients that can't get out to go and buy groceries and stuff like that. So we have little areas where we're trying to get women involved who are not working, who are not gaining an income, but now they feel so empowered because they're giving off, they're giving back something. The thank you that you get from people for the little bit that you do just is motivating enough to keep going. So please visit the website and just send me the email.
Sure.
And yes, we'll definitely get them involved.
That's amazing. And I really appreciate that you made the time for us. We will have all your handles, all your links and directing to your website and to be able to get into touch with you, because I really feel that, you know, if we get out of our own heads and fixated on our own little lives and we actually understand we're part of a much bigger picture, it's, you know, that in itself makes us understand how, you know, important we can actually be in this fight going forward. So thank you very much for making the time. And I will be in contact with you too to see how I can get involved as well. Thank you,
Oh,
Mehreen.
that would be awesome. Thank you so much, Nikki, for having me. It's really been a
Pleasure.
pleasure talking to you. Thank
Have a
you.
wonderful afternoon. Bye.
You. Bye.